and do that. And you brought your mom with you.
I did, and my husband too.
Yeah. How are y'all enjoying? Have you been to New Mexico before?
No, this is our first trip, and we're loving it.
Great. So you came just in time for the 100-degree temperatures.
We did. I think the 100-degree temperatures came just for us.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're so glad you're here. We have the Police versus Fire, the Guns and Hoses. And when Jeffrey wrote this, he wrote Guns and Roses. And I thought, well, that'd be awesome if that was going on. But big charity softball game tomorrow. And it'll be at Brainerd Baseball Park, which is a historic ballpark in and of itself when you guys get a chance to go by and visit. The player that held the the professional baseball home run record played baseball here and in Roswell back in the 40s and 50s and held that record until Barry Bonds broke it a few years ago, a guy by the name of Joe Bauman.
Oh, that's great.
And Joe Bauman Stadium is in Roswell, and Joe Bauman played baseball in Artesia at the very same ballpark where this tournament is going on. So
I love it. History is so important. I love it. That's
right.
Great.
That's right. Kristie, I know we talked to you on the phone last year.
Indeed.
When the memorial exhibit, the mobile exhibit came to Artesia, and we talked to you a lot about the book series that you've written and are promoting and have out there for kids, primarily geared towards kids. And how's that project going? Have you had a lot of positive response, and are the books getting out there?
Absolutely, and I'm not going to stop until they're everywhere, Gene.
Great.
Yeah, it's going really well. I couldn't be more happy. Kids need to learn about 9/11, and we are not going to stop until kids in every elementary school in this country are learning about 9/11. When we first started, sad to say, not a lot of kids were learning about it. We now have a whole generation of kids who were born after
my brothers, so yes, I was there, and I'm just very humbled to be here, to be a part of what you guys are promoting, that this, the 9/11 Artesia Memorial, sponsoring this, trying to bring awareness to children. It got taken away that everybody who lived through that day kind of remembers exactly probably where they were, kind of like a World War II type of thing. But the children who came after it, it's a topic that nobody knew how to really approach. And my daughter actually came up with a solution, because I had never spoken about it. And she had my grandkids start to ask me questions, and she kind of choreographed a little bit of it. And she made it age appropriate, where kids only ask what they're interested in.
Sure.
And you don't have to get into a lot of the weeds sometimes to explain things. And they actually came up with a curriculum to teach different grade levels. And what's funny about education is sometimes you start with, say, a 1-minute discussion, and it builds on itself, that the kids will ask what they want, and you can actually age-appropriate answer it. You don't have to get into a lot of technical discussion. And they're very satisfied with that. And when they get older and they want to ask tougher questions, they do.
Sure, but the point is to be able to have the information available to answer those questions and do that. That had to be a tough experience for you, because you've heard that from people in your line of work or in the military, that when you do experience very traumatic situations, you don't talk about it. You don't. So you stick the grandkids on them, huh?
But it did.
Well, it took many years.
Yeah.
This is recent. That, this over 20 years ago. So it's been a process. But I also do understand now that nobody has talked about it. I give you an example that I believe it's 2 years ago. New York City actually came up with a law to a moment of silence in the public school system. I said, you've been silent for 20 years.
Right.
What is that? That's not
and it took a law.
It took a law.
It took a law
to be
do
silent.
that.
They weren't discussing it. Nobody was approaching it. So this is an introductory way to start teaching it and talking about it. And they've come up with a curriculum that can be used anywhere, which is age sensitive, I believe.
Well, and it needs to be.
Yes.
I would think. I'm sure you've read the books.
Yes, yes.
He's lived them. And it's the way the stories unfolded in our family. And it really made it easier for him to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because to be able to sit down and explain it just seemed so daunting. But for the kids to be able to ask the questions and what they were interested in really helped to make the books age appropriate. And it really helped to share the information in a way that was informational and informative, but not traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
It was emotive, but it wasn't too heavy. It really helped to share the information in a way that was appropriate for each of them.
Sure. I'm sure it brought a lot of emotions to you as you read the books. Did it remind you of people that you worked with or people that you lost in that 9/11?
Yeah, yes, it did. But that's with me every day. The real reason we're here isn't for the books, though. It's for you guys forwarding this. That you guys are pushing the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not about us. It's not about, it's about educating the children, and for you guys to take that on in the manner that they have. Your school system, your mayor, your fire chief, police chief, having the softball game to raise money for that foundation so they can keep this up is the reason we're here.
Yeah.
And I'm very honored to be here, not to talk about what happened, but to see that people feel the way I do and the way my daughter does, that everybody needs to remember how important these people were and that they were just everyday heroes. And that's what the series of the book is. It's these people, and we are surrounded by everyday heroes.
Yeah.
There's people we take for granted every day that touch the lives of many, many people, and we don't realize until they're gone. And on that day, New York City as a whole came together in a way that'll never happen again, and that you could never predict or never choreograph to happen.
Right.
The goodness and the togetherness of the people that day is extraordinary. And I know because I found out a lot of it later, of course, because I was involved. I personally kind of didn't pay attention or witness it, but some of them documentaries that are usually put on the week before or the day before, if you watch what the people did, surrounding each other and helping each other and coming to age for each other and not worrying about themselves, but being more community-oriented and just as togetherness, it was amazing that they would line the streets. They would try to do anything they could do just to help somebody else. We had store owners giving away meals. We had people helping each other, giving them water. They wouldn't, that doesn't happen normally or at any other time.
Mm-hmm.
And even just the evacuation of the city, it was so extraordinary that this all happened without anybody else really encountering difficulty. I mean, it's just extraordinary.
All of America turned out, and
Right.
all of America came together in a way we never imagined it could. And that's an important message for kids today.
Sure.
It's so important. And so the everyday hero message is one that kids need to take to heart and adults need to take to heart, because firefighters, police officers, EMTs, these are everyday people that people may look past, but these are the people that we have to stand up for. And I'm so proud of Chief Hope. I'm so proud of Debbie Brazos. I'm so proud of Artesia 9/11 Memorial, Inc. I'm so proud of the mayor, so proud of the people in the city that are coming together, the school officials, all of the sponsors of this game who are going to stand up for the fallen. Because if we don't do it, who will? We have to do it. And we believe it's our duty to be here, because we have to. This is
Yeah.
what it's about. It's about standing up for 9/11, standing up for the fallen, and that's what this is all about.
It is, and it's a very emotional time for everyone because, as you said, everybody in this country was touched by that event. John, you said everybody can remember where they were. I'm down the hall.
Yeah.
And we have a show going on, and all the news is breaking, and everybody's just in total shock at what happened on that day. Are the books available now? Can people,
Yes.
if parents or
Absolutely.
private schools or
Absolutely.
church groups or whatever want to get the books, where are they available?
So consumers can buy them on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. Say that they learn a lot from the books too, interestingly enough. But elementary school is our target.
Good.
Because
good.
that's where really the learning needs to begin, to get a foundational understanding.
So are either one of you going to be on one of the softball teams? Are you going to be on the firefighter softball team?
Maybe I could just coach third and send everybody home. I'd like to flip this on you, though. I'm
Yeah.
sure, have you ever told your story where you were? Who do you speak to? Like, most of the people, you know, you encountered something that day, too. You experienced it also, and nobody else brings up their experiences.
Well, I'm fortunate that I talk on the radio every day.
Yes.
So I get to talk about that story. And I can remember Jim Wilburn was sitting here, and there was a volleyball coach sitting there, and I'm been, you know, because we're still kind of going on. And so after about an hour or so, when we all realized, no, this is not a drill, this is not, you know, this is a really serious thing. The news network that we had, we went, you know, wall to wall on both of our stations at the time, and had the news coverage that was going on, and we just kind of spent the rest of the day just kind of wandering around. You know, what is going on right now? And then there was the Pennsylvania crash, and then of course the plane that was going for the
Try to come to grips with everything that's going on.
Yeah, and so and I think for me, I think the most emotional thing was just watching when the buildings fell. Yeah. And just imagining, you know, there's people in there. And then, of course, you see the videos of the people jumping from the buildings and all that. The only time I'd been to New York as a kid, my dad actually was raised in Bayonne.
Okay.
Wow.
And I used to have family
across the road.
right across the river there. And we visited a couple of times back there. Got to see a game in Yankee Stadium
There you go.
as a kid. Still not a big fan of the Yankees, but I'm more Cubs fan, you know.
But that's why you watch them.
As long as you're not a Red Sox fan, that's okay.
No, really?
Yeah,
that's
fine.
good. That's going to be terrible. But we did, as we were out there visiting, we drove by the towers, and so I remember driving by. And then you know, in the movies, I mean, how many times have those towers been featured?
They're iconic.
Or seen in the background of movies or things like that. And I still today, when we watch a movie that you see the Twin Towers, I mean, that's the first thing we do, say, look, there's the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
So it's it was a terrible time for the entire country. I think the one thing that kind of makes me mad is that, and you don't have to comment on this, I'll comment more on that, but things that make me mad is when people take events that are terrible events and say they're like 9/11 or like
I'm happy
Pearl
to comment
Harbor.
on that. They're not like 9/11 or like Pearl Harbor.
Exactly.
And they should stop that immediately.
Yeah.
And people should stop that immediately, and they should make them stop that immediately.
Yeah.
That is not acceptable. They should not be politicizing events that are nothing like 9/11 and saying that they are.
Yeah. We've all seen the video clips and the picture of the pile and when President Bush came.
Yep.
Were you anywhere near or around?
I do have a story.
Okay.
This is a good one.
I had been working down at the site, and I hadn't been home yet. I don't remember when he went, what day it was, or whatever else. And my wife says, "Oh yeah, at least you got to meet the president down there." I said, "What are you talking about?" I had no idea that he was there.
Yeah.
I said he wasn't where I was, and that's how
big the site was.
the site was, and that's how engrossed everybody else was. And you know, and she kind of funnily said that because you know, anytime the presidents come into Manhattan, my company is assigned to meet them in case anything happens. We're a scuba unit. We have all the tools in the world to help in case anything goes wrong on his landing, and that's what we're there for. So she kind of just assumes that, you know, like anytime the president comes in, I'm going to see him. Yeah. And it just kind of struck a chord that I had no idea he was even there, and that's how vast this thing was. And it just strikes a funny thing to me. That,
so what? When you go back now, and I know the memorial is there.
Yeah.
The monument or the memorial that's there. The new tower has been built and it's open, and I've seen some of the pictures of the communications facility up on the roof, the radio towers, because that was my industry. All the communications, TV and radio, had their antennas on top of the World Trade Center. And when that fell down, that took out all all that as well, and they've had to move to the Chrysler building and couple of others,
Empire State
Empire
Building.
State, and then and now they got the new state of the art. But if you go to New York now, and obviously you're going to see the new building and the memorial, but are there other things that you can see that you can point to that are still there, or still remnants or reminders of what of when that all fell down and did all of its destruction in that area?
Yes. Well, first of all, they have a museum also, which brings you into what happened that day. They have the tree that survived this thing, the collapses and everything. They brought that back. A lot of the buildings are the same, and other than that, I would say there's memorials on the walls and the reflecting pools and such of that.
But the rest of the city has pretty well just resumed.
Yes.
But there are a lot of reminders of 9/11. So there's like a memorial wall to the FDNY that's across the street from where the tower stood. There was a tribute center that was built. There's a tribute within the fire museum. There are definitely reminders of 9/11 across Manhattan, across the boroughs, even around the world. So 9/11 is definitely not forgotten, but it's not remembered enough.
Right. Well, and I hope, too, we never forget who it was that flew the planes.
Correct.
And I think that maybe is part of the story that gets kind of shoved out of the corner. We know what happened.
Right.
We know what happened afterwards, but are we learning or reminded of or remember who it was that did this? I hope that still is a part of the process of what we think about.
Yeah. Are we doing enough? Has enough stopped? What is it just enough to stop and say we got bin Laden?
Yeah.
Well, what about the ideology? What else?
That's
we
right.
don't hear enough about that.
Yep.
We're not attacking
and
that at
the
all.
problem is, it has nothing to do with a faith. It has to do with extremism. There's extremism everywhere, but we don't hear enough about it.
That's right. That's right. Oh, it's a terrible time. John Kiernan, Kristie Kiernan,
Bouryal.
I'm so
It's
sorry.
my husband's fault. It's his fault.
I did not have that problem when we did the phone interview. So are you going to be doing some sightseeing while you're out here? Are you
Yes,
going to be
for sure.
visiting with folks? Or there be a
We
chance to meet with
absolutely
you?
are. Yes, we're a meet and greet tonight. We're very excited to meet some folks in the city. Very excited to meet them, and we'll be at the game tomorrow, 12 o'clock. Excited to meet everyone in Artesia. Excited to be here. Humbled to be here.
Yeah.
Really, really thrilled that an event like this is taking place here, and happy to be here to represent. Really happy to be here.
I'll tell you, having the mobile exhibit here last year, I'm not sure how attendance was at other places that it went last year, but I'm told this was one of the higher attended, higher visited.
Absolutely was. Yeah.
Yeah,
visits.
I heard it touched a lot of hearts also.
It really did, and we really enjoyed, and we're honored to have it here. And we did a whole radio show over there and everything. It was fun. We had our interviews that we did. So yeah, folks need to come out and meet you guys. Are you more comfortable telling the story now? I mean, what part of the story do you tell? Do you tell more from a personal experience or a general experience of what took place that day?
I really, I don't usually discuss it, but if they ask me specific questions or they're interested in a certain type of thing, I will say that.
Yeah.
I will say one thing that we didn't mention is that we lost a lot of our freedoms that day.
We did.
Yeah, we
did.
certainly did. And every time I get on a plane or an airport, I'm pissed off. So,
yeah, I really haven't done any air travel in a long time, and I know, I understand some of the reasoning. Obviously, a
Yeah,
lot
of
of the reasoning
course.
behind it.
there's always a good reason to start it, but
Yeah, but I know
gotten out
I'm
of
not a
hand.
criminal. I know that.
Exactly.
Just
Yes.
ask me. I'll tell you.
you're
But
going to vet me, but not.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll sit in the plane and I'll stand guard. How's that?
Yeah.
that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I'll be there with
'Cause
you.
That ain't going to happen again.
Yeah. No, it can't. It can't. And hopefully we will learn from those lessons. And talking about the country coming together or the city coming together, I hate that it takes such a tragic event
Yes.
to make that happen. All the things that you talked about that came about as a result or after
Yeah.
9/11, those are things that should be going on.
Probably coming home 5 in the morning, and there was no shuttling type of thing. It was just you jump in somebody's sleeve and then you jump in a truck. And we head down West Street, which is the road right along the Hudson River, to go back to the firehouse to get a couple hours sleep or shower or whatever. And, you know, you work, and you don't feel like you accomplished anything. And you came out of there, and I just remember lying in the back of this truck, and 4 or 5:30, I don't remember what time it was, early morning, and the whole West Street was lined with people just with signs applauding, and they just wanted to show that they wanted to do something, and it meant so much to me. It still brings a chill to me, that. And it was kind of uplifting, like, they wish they had been down there to do what I was doing, and they had no opportunity to do that. I was very fortunate to be able to do that, because I wouldn't have been able to live with myself had it not been. So everything they did was appreciated by others. Maybe not in a moment, but when they reflect on it, it meant a lot. Even that's why what's going on out here is important.
Oh, absolutely. So we encourage folks to come out tomorrow. Sarsaparilla. Have you ever had sarsaparilla?
I haven't, but I've heard of it. I'm looking forward to it.
I grew up with it. I've tasted it. I'm old.
I had a cousin from back east that was visiting. I grew up in Iowa, and we went to the Tasty Freeze, I think is what it was called. Okay. And he says, I want a soda. And I said, no, you don't. He said, no, I want a soda. I said, no, you don't. He said, what do I want? I said, you want a pop.
There you go.
He said, no, I want a soda. And they gave him a soda. And he said, this isn't what I asked for. And I said, no, you want a pop. So you have to learn the different
exactly.
the different terminology. Around here, I learned if anybody asks you if you want a Coke, you say, okay, and you go, well, what flavor? There you go. And where I grew up, it was Pepsi country, and then I moved down to Mississippi, and it was Coca-Cola and Barks root beer and all that kind of stuff. But sarsaparilla is kind of like root beer. I don't know if it came before root beer or if root beer came first and then there was sarsaparilla. Mm-hmm. But they're going to have hot dogs and Cracker Jacks and peanuts, and the dunking booth is going to be there. And I think the mayor's going to be in the dunking booth.
So I hear.
It'll be our mayor, not your mayor.
And Chief Hope, I hear.
That's what I hear. Now I'm hearing there's a little hesitation from the police side to have somebody in the dunking booth, so maybe they can be embarrassed.
The line might be a little longer. That's no, that's not fair.
Well, I think the smartest guy in the room is the mayor, because it's going to be 105 degrees tomorrow, and he's going to be in his swim trunks sitting in a thing of water.
Sounds like a good idea.
I just think it's so great. I just think it's so great that they're doing this. I really do.
Well, we have
kudos to all of them.
We have a couple of celebrity announcers too, Robbie Ballou and Mike Duff. And years ago, we used to do a sports talk show called The Cheap Seats, and we talk about local sports and stuff. And we had this character that Mike Duff played on the radio called Joey Bruno, and Joey Bruno was from the Bronx. And he was a big Yankees fan, but he had been hit in the head and had a steel plate in his head. So his Yankees were Billy Martin and, the 1970s right. Yankees, while the rest of our Yankees were the 1990s Yankees. And so we had some very interesting conversations about how the Yankees were doing. About that.
Nice.
I grew up in the Midwest. We were Cubs fans. We were...
struggled a lot of years then.
Oh my gosh! And then so when they won the World Series here, and it had to be against Cleveland,
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, could you pick somebody else, And then I was we used to carry the Diamondbacks on the radio, so I actually did go to Game 6 of the World Series when it was out in Phoenix, and
the Yankees lost that one.
They did. The game we watched, that was Andy Pettit's last game that go around. He got chased off the mound, and we were happy about that. I'm sorry.
Everybody remembers that here's the line drive, though, right?
Oh yeah. And that was a weird series because the home team won all the games. So the Arizona wins the first two, and then they go to New York and the midnight comebacks, and that was quite a time. And that was the year of 9/11. So it was a great event that helped to bring the country together. Thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it. John, Kristie, we'll see you tomorrow out at Brainerd Baseball Park, and y'all enjoy your stay here in Artesia.
We look forward
you
to
very
it.
much.
Thanks so much for
It's
having
an
us.
honor.
All right. Thanks a lot.